And
There you go. Okay,
can
you got it, Lee? Yeah, you've got it.
Hello, everybody. What I'm going to talk to you about today is something that I learned about 6 months ago, although I've known it for years, but I actually applied it to my new business. And that's the 8 business promises that we should make. Now, this takes a bit of thinking about, so we're a bit early for that end of year, between Christmas and New Year time when we reflect. But I'd suggest that if you did want to do that will be the time to really think about what promises your business makes to different parts of the community, different parts of the business world. Now, usually the people on here know me quite well, and they know that I use a personality profiling tool called Wealth Dynamics and Talent Dynamics, and it's all based on the 5,000-year-old I Ching, which is about cycles. It's about recognizing that everything goes through a cycle. And if you liken it to the 4 seasons, you start with spring, where everything's new, it's big picture, it's strategic. Then you move on to blaze, which is the people. It's very people focused. It's like fire. It's summer. It's very warm. Then you move down to the tempo energy, which is like autumn, very grounded, very excellent with timing. And then you have the winter energy, which is the steel, which is very much about how things operate. And as I say, it's the detail, but it's also where things start to germinate, and then you start the cycle again. So we've linked these 8 business promises to the life cycle, and we start with the enterprise promise, which move on, which is the enterprise promise is your big promise to the world. So this is where you take a step back and you think about, well, why am I in business? And what we suggest is a maximum of 2 sentences that really inspire people, so that when they read this promise, and you can put it on your website, you can put it on your business cards, if you've got staff, it's something that your staff should know backwards. It's about what you promised, why you're in business, and what you promise to the world. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. And I've used both my company, but also a winemaking company in Canada as an example. I've got dozens of examples of these, so I just picked these 2 to show how different they can be, because my business is about feet. I've recently purchased a podiatry business. So I've actually thought about, so my new company, what do I want it to represent in the world? Well, so my enterprise promise is getting you pain-free so you can get on with your life, because we know that our feet support everything we do. So that's the enterprise promise for me. It's about getting people back on their feet so they can get on with their life. Whereas the winemaking company, their promise is to be delicious by nature, which means that they're sustainable, they're premium wines, and they're delivering quality in harmony with nature. So everything about this company, which is called 40 Knots Winery, is about being natural. So that's their promise. The next one, the promises, is your customer promise. What are you promising to your customers? And it should be aimed at a specific customer avatar, and it allows you to really understand the who you should have as front and center in everything you do. So what are you promising that customer, your avatar, your primary customer? So for me in the feet business, my top priority is to truly care through providing consistent continuity and connection as well as with cutting edge treatments for a pathway back to health. So again, this links back to my my enterprise promise, which is getting them back on their feet pain-free. And one of my friends threw in, your soul support your soul. I think that that's another really good customer promise, is that we recognize that everybody has a soul, but why our feet are so important. So the winery company, there's quite a lot here, but basically they're tempting you to slow down, sip in the moment, and experience tradition and quality. So the third promise is your network promise, because we can't all operate as an island. So your network promises is the promise that you make to those who are your followers, your community members, but they're not necessarily your prospects or your customers yet, but they're within your network. So you're thinking way beyond just your customers, and you're making them a promise too. So it's something that you will give to them or share for them for free. So for me, my network promise is that we're educating our local communities to value their feet, and recognizing what they do for them each day, so that more people actually realize that there is special treatments for the feet. It's, you know, you wouldn't go to your GP if you had toothache. So if you've got problems with your feet, podiatrists are there to help them. So that's our network promise, is to really educate. The winery's promise is collaboration. It's to succeed together, and they're members of a rich community of like-minded and intelligent people. So they share their expertise, and they connect, and they want to celebrate the success of each other in their whole network. The next one is a partner promise. Now, not every business, especially if you're a very small business, will have partners. But I mean, people in this community, the networking group, in many respects, we're each other's partners. So the partner promise is the promise that you make to those partners. How do they make money from your products and services? And what do you do to ensure their success? So in the family business practice, you know, we basically promise that people can trust us to provide those services. If somebody refers one of their clients or one of their friends to us, we are actually making a promise to them that we're going to provide the best service that's possible to them. So we all do have partners. They may not always be that recognizable, but when we sit down and think about all these different promises that we make to different people in our world, then the partner promise is one that's there. So my partner promise is we are a key collaborator in our clients' health team through mutually beneficial partnerships. And in that, and I have more details in these, I've kept them very short, but this is the GP. If it's diabetic client, then it's their diabetic team. It may be physiotherapists, osteopaths and such like, but they're all our partners in our clients' health. It's not just about their feet quite often. And I didn't have one for the winery, so I put in another one here. This is an education company, and they partner with other leading education partners who share the same vision and their ethos to transform the minds and thinking of the changemaker community. And they're supporting each other to create the freedom, thinking bigger and impact the world. So they're very much about partnering with other leading education companies. I'll take a deep breath in a minute. So the next promise is the market promise. Now, if you're a small business, you may not actually think that you have a market, but your market could be yourself. And really your market promise is the value that your business is going to bring within 1, 3 or 5 years, based on the predictable growth and the value multiplier for your business model. So as I say, you may not have investors, you may not actually be part of the market, but in yourself, you'll want to make a promise to yourself that you actually do want to grow. So what does that growth look like? So putting a market promise down, even if it's for yourself, is another promise to hold yourself to. And that's really what these promises are. They're to make sure that you hold yourself accountable and your business accountable to the, you know, the greater good, the greater world. So for me, my market promise is that I'm actually going to grow, and I have this pretty big plan to have 20 clinics by, I've put it up now, 2027. I went back and I visited it again, but basically I want to have 20 clinics with a 26 million revenue in the next 7 years. I'll push this out a little bit. Oops. Whereas for the winery, their market promise is, they haven't put a figure on theirs, but they have actually done a number of other promises to the market, that they're going to go up to 7,000 cases in a year, that they're going to have state-of-the-art equipment that will allow them to scale to 10,000 cases. They're going to have signature venue spaces for 500 guests. So they've also, if you put a line in the sand, they may not have actually put a dollar figure to some of theirs, because they're in Canada, I can say dollar. But they've actually thought about what is it that they're promising their market that they're going to grow. The next promise is their investor promise. And the investor promise, again, for a small business, this may not appear to be that relevant, but it again, you're investing in yourselves, so you can always make a promise to yourself as your investor, or if you do have investors, what's the return that you're looking to make over the next 1 to 5 years, and what's that risk? So for me, my investor promise is to deliver an annualized 10% return on investment over a 3-year period. But more than that, it's actually a chance to make a difference. And also, my retiring podiatrists are, some of them are going to be my faculty. So I'm looking to promise them an investment as well. If they will help to generate, to train the next generation of podiatrists, then they're investing in their industry. So I've actually put a figure down on what that will mean if they are prepared to invest in their industry. And for the winery, their investor promise is, they've gone into a lot more detail. So they've got different types of shares, that they've really thought about theirs in a big way. So they've taken the time out to really think about how are they going to fund their growth. And so rather than just say, we're going to grow, but, and we're going to get investors, they've actually defined how that's going to happen. The next one is the systems promise. The systems promise is the promise that you make about the automation and the use of systems in your business to increase your efficiency and value delivery. And this has really come to the forefront since COVID, since lockdown, is that actually we've got to be a lot more automated. We've got to be much more reliant on systems. So what's that systems promise that we're going to make? Some may be, like in Henrik's case, it may not be automated systems as such, but it may be systems that deliver to his clients his services, but they know what those systems are. It's not just a vague, well, sign up with me and I'll deliver you what you need. It's actually promising that you actually do have systems, and in most instances that you are going to be using automation. So in my case, what we're actually promising in our systems promise is that we're developing a standardized operating model, where we do use the advanced technology systems and tools that are available now in the podiatry world, and that this standard operating model means that there is a consistency of service. So whether you go to a podiatry business, one of our podiatry clinics in Havant, or the one that we're building in St Ives in Cambridge, you're going to get the same service. You're going to see this. You're going to get the same quality of service, the same quality of both in the on the clinician side, but also on the administration side. Every client who comes to the clinic will get a follow-up call 2 days later. They will get the same service, whether it's a different podiatrist or a foot health practitioner who's seeing them. So our promise is that our systems will be consistent, standardized, but also technologically advanced. For the wine company, they're going to procure, maintain and support relevant digital applications. And again, they've broken down exactly what those applications are, so that they are totally aware. They've planned exactly how they're going to automate their business, and their business is very, very customer focused. Yes, at the back they've got the winemaking automation, but they're very focused on how they're supporting their customers through the different systems. So that's promise number 7. I'm nearly there. And promise number 8 is our social promise. And all companies that are going to have longevity, and we're seeing it more and more, even in the big companies, is that there is this view that, or this realization that businesses are not just in business to make money, that they actually have a social responsibility as well. So the 8th promise is, what's your social promise that you're making, either to the community in which you trade and serve, or it may be a global, promise. It may be an impact that you will create on the planet. Some companies, particularly who are looking to be more sustainable, or who are going to support some form of positive global change. So for me, my social promise is to help the women of acid victims. I had the humbling pleasure of spending time with them back in 2019. And there's such a shortage of podiatrists and foot care in India that to be able to train acid victims to be able to have a career is something that is my social promise. So I thought about, well, what social promise that I can make that is also linked to my business, so that my clients can actually associate with it. And so that's our social promise, is that we will create a group scholarship for these women who are such amazing, brave people. Whereas the winery, they're very much about supporting the human rights to nutrition, shelter, education and safety. Again, because their underlying enterprise promise is about nature and being as close to nature as possible. So I know I've run through that very fast, but 15 minutes I've learnt when I've done these connect sessions before goes awfully quickly. So I've sort of rushed through it. But at the end of the at the end of the day, what I really want to bring across is that we often do business plans, business planning, but have we thought about what our business is actually there for and the promises that we can make to all those people that we touch in different forms? And so that's why we call it a promise. It's actually to hold ourselves accountable and to stretch ourselves so that we're actually, because a promise is not like an idea, it's not like just a comment. A promise is something that we put our reputations behind. For me, with my children and my grandchildren, I don't make a promise if I don't think that I can absolutely keep it. And so by applying this idea of a business promise, I've really had to think about what it is that I'm prepared to actually say publicly as a promise that I've actually set my business up to succeed if I keep my promises. And to me, it's very important to keep a promise. So, how long did I take there, Peter? Sorry, do you want to stop?
About 20 minutes, but that's good. That's good. Yeah. Shall I just? I'm going to push the stop recording button. Bear with me.